Alrighty. Hello, everyone. See you all starting to hop on here. We're going to give it just a few minutes before we get started to give everyone an opportunity to get logged in, get settled before we start to talk about AI agents and AI first procurement with Vicki here from Instructure. So keep hopping on here. I see that number going up, which is fantastic. And in the chat here as well, feel free to ask any questions as we move through this entire webinar. We're going to have some time at the end of our webinar today to go through those questions, answer the ones that have been asked the most. So definitely throw those in there. And also feel free to, right now as folks are starting to hop on, let us know where you are logging in from. I always like to give kind of a hypothetical prize to the person who logs in from the furthest location. So let us know who is here, where are you coming from, and super excited to get started. But again, we're going to give it just a second here. Okay, I see Houston, Texas, Bakersfield. I am in San Diego, so we're quite close, actually. India, okay.
Ooh,
Man, that might just
Minnesota.
have to win. I still want to see where everyone else is from, but I don't think we're going to be able to beat India. I feel like that is as physically far away from me as you can be. Amazing. Massachusetts, Denver, fantastic. I'm headed to Denver in just a couple of weeks. Iowa, amazing. All righty. It looks like we have quite a great group on here. So super excited to get started, everyone. And let's go ahead and get into it, Vicki. So starting off today here, folks, we are going to be talking about AI agents and how you can actually be AI first in your procurement process. I'm joined here today by Vicki Munson, who is the procurement director at Instructure. Now, Vicki has been one of our most incredible customers who has really been innovative in innovating with us and how her and her team have adopted artificial intelligence in their procurement process today. And my goal for today is for us to not only discuss that, but also show you live in action what it looks like to use agents in your everyday procurement process. So let's get into it. Folks, my name is Libby Sestak. I am a senior principal AI and solutions here at Levelpath and really excited to walk you through our content for today. So starting off here, what is Levelpath? Now, Levelpath is an end-to-end AI native procurement platform. I'm going to go ahead and build this slide out here. We started off when we built Levelpath with an AI native foundation, focusing on the supplier record. We realized that in the market, there wasn't really a tool yet that pulled together your entire procurement process into the view of the supplier. What contracts do I have with the supplier? What sourcing events have I run? What does my spend look like with them? All in one place to have a 360-degree view of your relationship with your vendors. So that's where we started when we built Levelpath. And as I mentioned before, Levelpath is AI native, and our AI native hyperbridge layer is what pulls together all of the capabilities within Levelpath. It allows us to build agents in a no-code interface and pulling in the newest and best models on the market as they come to the market. No one really knows what artificial intelligence is going to look like over the next even 3 to 6 months, and Levelpath's flexible foundation allows us to tap into the best technology, even if we don't know today what it's going to be. So we're going to see that throughout the rest of this webinar today. And Levelpath starts with the stakeholder experience. Again, it is an end-to-end platform for your entire procurement process. How does a stakeholder engage with your team, whether they need a contract review, they're submitting a request to buy something, or they need information? We also manage then that request that comes in, who it needs to go to, and how we move it through the process. Also running sourcing events, again, through our AI native infrastructure. So how do we build out sourcing events literally with the click of a button, allowing the model to do that heavy lifting? We also are going to focus today really primarily on our contracts and how we can speed up your contract management process by using AI agents to take a first pass at your contracts, removing some of that grunt work from your team and allowing your team to focus on the really strategic work. And of course, as I mentioned, everything comes together on the supplier record and Levelpath, whether that's onboarding your suppliers or managing them from a performance perspective. And we're also building out our P2P functionality today within Levelpath. So truly an end-to-end suite, AI native at its core, and we're going to see some of that magic throughout today. So, what really is the difference between an AI native tool and a tool that maybe bolts on AI? So, you can kind of think of it like if you were to buy a newer house today and you were going to have AC that's actually built into the infrastructure and foundation of your home. It's going to work a lot better. All the different parts are going to talk to each other versus if you were to get an AC unit, stick it into your window, turn it on. It's only really going to cool down that one part of your house, and it's not going to talk to the other AC units that you may have throughout your home. So AI native procurement is really AI native tools, excuse me, really do make the difference of taking your processes that maybe used to take you hours or days and turn them into something that very seamlessly becomes just seconds of work. And we're going to be seeing that throughout our demo today. So I am most excited now to actually introduce our guest speaker, Vicki Munson, again, Director of Procurement here at Instructure. And Vicki, tell us a little bit about Instructure and what you all have been doing over there.
Sure thing. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining. So, in Structure, we actually own the Canvas product. So, we are a learning management system company. So, you may have seen kids, grandkids, students, you may have used it yourselves. Looking at Canvas, you get your online assignments, your quizzes, you can take quizzes, etc., online. So, we are located in Salt Lake City. That's where our headquarters are located. And we have roughly 2,000 employees. We're in multiple continents. And procurement was really just built in Q4 of 24. So that's when I was brought on to establish the procurement team from the ground up. So we start going in there, and we have roughly 400 million in spend. Just to give you an idea, so far year to date, I've reviewed about 260 contracts just in 2026. So as we get more into this topic, I think you may be able to see how beneficial it actually is.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Vicki, for giving us that background. It's been really incredible to work with your team. As you said, the procurement, function within your organization was only started recently, and you have this small but very mighty team that's really in the tool, really being innovative with how you can stretch your small amount of resources today to do the most work. So really excited to talk about that today. But what we're going to really focus on today and what Vicki's team has been really incredible about adopting and making their own are our task agents within Levelpath. So what even is a task agent? Now, as I mentioned before, we're going to be hopping into the product in just a little bit to take a look at how this actually works. But all these little buttons that you see right here are actually task agents. And task agents allow our models to complete tasks for us on our behalf. All we have to do is write instructions for them. We can click this button and it's going to run that process for us, whether it's analyzing a contract, summarizing a contract, writing me an executive memo, giving me an overview of my supplier and pulling forward that information from the supplier record. Really, if you can imagine it, we can create it into a task agent, and it really does start to automate some of that more repetitive work that you find yourself doing every single day so that you can actually focus on being a strategic advisor to the business, taking some of that work that is a little bit more tedious and very time consuming and allowing you to come in after the artificial intelligence has actually taken a first pass so that you can make an executive decision. So that's what we're going to be seeing here through our task agents. But Vicki, tell me a little bit about what things looked like at Instructure before you started to use Levelpath.
Sure thing. So when I first came on, there was no procurement team whatsoever. So our accounts payable department was running requisitions, contract requests, et cetera, basically just within the system itself. Everyone was doing their own thing. It was literally like the wild, wild west going on at Instructure. A lot of individuals were negotiating their own terms. They were utilizing legal for every contract review. As you can imagine, the process was very lengthy, very time consuming. Nothing was automated. So everything was completely manual. Large volume of contracts coming through, statements of work. Back then it was taking 1 to 4 months for legal turnaround time, sometimes longer, for a review to occur. So this is where we came in with Levelpath, and I think it has been a great fit so far.
Incredible. Yeah. So sounds like originally, a kind of a backlog, a queue, a lot of manual work, kind of a slower process that isn't as delightful for the end user or for your team at the end of the day, having to manage all of that work. But Vicky, tell us a little bit more then about what things have looked like now that you've been able to adopt Levelpath as an organization and really start to infuse AI into your process.
So I don't know if you noticed, but on the original slide about Instructure, we are a team of three. So we are very small in nature, and we implemented some task agents. So I provided Libby with a list or a few lists of
Mhm.
agents that I want to run through some of our contracts so that they can automatically identify problematic areas, areas of concern, risk areas, identify all of those so that we don't have to send everything through legal now. I have, as I
Mm.
mentioned, I've reviewed 260 contracts so far this year, so I have taken on quite a bit of the reviews. Our cycle times have improved dramatically. It says 5 business days. However, when I run that task agent, I can have my results literally within a couple of minutes. So,
Mhm.
do I still look at it? Of course, I still do, just for my own peace of mind. But
Yeah.
they had, the task agents have been spot on. We're not noticing any issues, any misses of any kind. So it has really helped us turn around one, the end user satisfaction rating. So we send out surveys every year.
Mhm.
We've only gotten 2 surveys so far. First one, not so great. Second one, much better. So we have reduced that turnaround time for contract reviews significantly. My SLA that I have established is within 5 business days, so that's where that comes from in that middle bucket. But sometimes it takes me 4 days to get to it. On that 5th day, I run the task agent, I can finalize it, either prefer, or create a red line, send that back to the supplier, or approve it within Levelpath and move on. So it has significantly reduced our end user wait period, and it also allows us to focus on much more strategic, and we're moving away from process. So in order for us to become a best in class company and procurement team, we have to get there. So this is also allowing us to become scalable because we are looking at growth. We're looking at acquisitions. So I was really looking for something to help us get to that next level. And Levelpath has made it very delightful for us to get there.
I love that, Becky. I mean, a theme that I'm hearing across, really all of our customers is that we want to be able to take procurement from a function that historically has had to be a little bit more reactive just due to the nature of the function. You're receiving all of these requests, all of these contracts, everything's kind of being put on your plate. And a lot of the time that the team has to spend then is going through those requests, like, reviewing those contracts. And now tools like Levelpath are allowing you to kind of flip it on its head and now become more of a proactive strategic advisor to the business, which is, of course, I imagine more of the fun work
Ye-
than, just reviewing a contract.
yes, much more automated, which allows us more time to do the fun stuff for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Alrighties, let's actually talk through what I am planning to show in Level Path itself. So, as Vicky mentioned, it was probably like, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago now. She first came to me. I remember I was like, Vicky, how are things going? And you were like, oh, I'm all right, Libby. Like I've reviewed like 60 contracts so far this month. And I was like, no way. Like that's what you're spending all your time on. And you were like, yeah, it's taking me forever. And I was like, well, tell me a little bit more about that. What are you actually doing when you review these contracts? And you let me know that you have information, of course, that you're looking for within each contract, specifically with SOWs. You have a checklist of the information that you need to make sure is included in that SOW. And if it's missing, you obviously need to go back to the vendor, ensure that that gets included. And so we sat down together and I was like, let's build these into task agents. I think this is a lot of work that can be automated on your behalf. And then you can then come as the strategic advisor to that contract and then, go back to the vendor, get any of those pieces that you need, but you're not spending your time actually just going through the checklist itself. So I remember that was one of the first ones that we came up with together. And as you mentioned, it's been able to reduce that amount of time that contracts are sitting in the legal queue, literally down to, as short as 1 day and, your SLA of 5 days. And another one that your team came to me with was this concept of contract translation. I think it was one of your team members mentioned to me that you'll oftentimes receive contracts in Japanese. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes, that is
Yeah.
correct.
And Vicki, I believe you don't speak Japanese or
No,
read
that is
Japanese. Okay,
correct.
me either, me either. And so when your team came to me with that, we again sat down and thought to ourselves, how can we potentially solve for this problem utilizing the power of AI within Levelpath? And again, that resulted in another task agent, which we're going to see today, that's actually going to take a contract that is in another language. And in this example, we are using Japanese, but we actually can translate over 100 languages within Levelpath. So whether that's from English to another language or another language into English, or really any variance between there, which really does help to save time. And obviously, you don't have to go outside the tool to get any translation assistance or, bring someone in that actually does speak or read that language. So we're going to be taking a look today mainly at these 3 task agents. And if we have some time as well, I also thought it would be fun to really quickly build a task agent together just to show the audience here really truly how simple it is to put these into production. I think that when we talk about AI agents, it's like, okay, yeah, that's great, but am I going to have to submit a ticket to IT? Or is this going to be something where I need to be able to write, various lines of code in order to make it happen? And what you're going to see today is that it's just not the case within Levelpath. All you have to know is what you want your agent to be able to do. And Levelpath is going to make that a reality. So, Vicki, I think we should get into it. What do you think?
Sounds like a great plan.
All right, let's master task agents. So, as I mentioned before, we're going to start off with our 2 contract review agents that we first put into place for Vicki and her team at Instructure. So, what I'm doing right now is hopping into Levelpath. Now, what you are seeing is a path within Levelpath. So, as I mentioned before, we manage your entire end-to-end procurement process. So, from intake to, any budget reviews, sourcing events, all of these steps are completely bespoke to you and your business. And as you can see here, we've now gotten to the point where we need to review some contracts in our legal review step. And as we can see here, 2 contracts have already been placed in here, and they are on our vendor paper. So we are buying some licenses from Asana. We have an MSA as well as an SOW. And again, historically, Vicki and her team would have to open this up, read through everything, take their playbook, their checklist, and ensure that everything is matching up. And now instead, we're actually able to ask our assistant to do it for us. So what I'm going to do here is start off by running this contract review agent. Now, this is going to be the agent that is going to look through that MSA, that SOW, understand the expectation of what we are looking for, whether that is actually present within the contract, and then giving us a clear explanation of what it found or didn't find. So Vicki, my understanding then is that your team is able to go through here, quickly see where those red X's are, and then go investigate inside of the contract versus having to start from scratch.
Correct. Correct.
Absolutely. And what's really great about this too is that not only can you run these task agents that are going to give you your information in that super clean format, showing you exactly what you need to investigate, you can also just ask then direct questions to the assistant like, hey, okay, it says there's no additional fees. Like, can you double check this for me? Or can you tell me what is included? Or maybe I want more information about this term. Can you tell me what clause you found that in? And so the assistant actually does have that context into the entire contract. So again, you're really very minimally pulling open that actual contract agreement and being able to query the assistant for any additional information that you may need. Now, we're going to take a look at our next task agent here. So I'm going to go ahead and start our chat history over. As I mentioned before, we also have an SOW that has been uploaded. And again, this was something that was taking Vicki and the team a lot of time, this SOW checklist. So here, what we're going to do is ask the assistant to look through that SOW and again, search for everything that we've asked it for to ensure that all of those components are inside of the contract. Again, removing that manual step of looking for the supplier legal name, looking for if there's a term for convenience clause, etc. And it's actually pulling all this information out. Now, what's really incredible here too is that these are not agents that are just out of the box, like kind of square peg, round hole, fit your process into this agent. This list can be anything you want, and we can continue to iterate with our customers like Vicki and her team to add to this list, to have, different columns to display different information. It really can be whatever you want. I remember, Vicki, when we first put these into place, we went through a couple different iterations and you were like, hey, can we, it's great that the information's present, but I want to see what it found, and like, or I want to add this additional, term that we're looking for, a piece of information. So really is a great way to iterate and be really flexible. Again, no coding required and no IT resource required. And all you have to do, again, is know what you want your output to be. And not only will we build these agents for you here at Levelpath, you and your team can actually make your own. Vicki, I was taking a look earlier, as we're working through your instance of Levelpath and seeing that some members of your team are building their own task agents now as
Yes.
well,
Yes.
which is incredible.
Yes.
So,
They're very
yeah,
excited about it. Yes.
exactly. So, what's amazing is that we are always here to help you to build out those agents. But what I absolutely love about working at Levelpath is that we are making artificial intelligence and the power of it truly accessible to the average user. You don't have to have a computer science degree or really actually know too much about artificial intelligence in order to make these agents work for you. And what's even better is that once they're published, I'd probably say pretty much anyone can click a button. So it really truly is easy for anyone to use once these are in production. Now, this is our contract review piece. Again, this is what has helped Vicki to really speed up her process when reviewing those complex agreements that come in from the business. The next task agent that I wanted to highlight here was going to be our contract translator task agent. So again, I'm actually hopping now over into a contract that has already been signed. It's already within our system here, and we can see that it is in Japanese, which again is a use case that Vicki and her team are experiencing quite often. And so what I'm actually going to ask my assistant to do now with this task agent is to translate this contract. And there we see it doing it for me. So it's taking all of those tables that were in there, recreating them for me as well, and putting everything into English. So again, this could be information that is in any language or in English and needs to be translated to another language. And it really is going to give me that clear information in a very similar format to what I saw in the contract record on the left-hand side. And not only that, if we want at the end, we can have our assistant put this into a Word document. So you could actually just have a copy of this contract that is actually in English as well. So really a lot of opportunities here for how we want to, translate these contracts, make it more accessible to the team.
And
And I
Libby,
see
how
it
many
going
languages did you say?
over 100 languages the assistant can read and
Amazing.
translate back and forth between. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Absolutely. And what's fantastic as well is that we can also ask questions in English about a contract in another language, and it will give those responses back in the language that you asked the question in. So even if I didn't go through and translate this entire contract, maybe I just had one question about it, like, when is the end date for it? Or, do we have a certain term or, who signed, etc. We can simply ask that question and I will get the result back in English because I asked the question in English. So there we go. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at actually building out a task agent. Now, this is one of my absolute favorite things to do in Levelpath because, again, I think anyone can say, oh, we're AI native. We make it so easy for you to build these agents. And I really believe that the proof is in actually building them. And as Vicki knows, I encourage all of my customers to build their own agents because some of the best ideas and some of the most creative agents that I've seen have not come from us. They've actually come from our customers that are inside of the platform doing the work day to day. Now, we had our Level Up conference recently, and we had a little competition there where I think we had, 50 or 60 of our customers inside of a room. And I said, you have 20 minutes, go build the best task agent. That was really all the direction that I gave. And I was really impressed by the results that we got from our customers in the room that, again, really only had 20 minutes to go and build a creative agent. Now, what I've done here is navigate over into our agent library. Again, this is where you can actually create all of your different task agents within Levelpath. So again, that's that little button that we saw before. And the agent that I think we should focus on building today is actually going to be an agent that is able to summarize a contract for us. So we're going to take that same contract we saw before, the one that is in Japanese, and ask our agent to summarize it, but in English. So I'm going to create a new task agent. I'll just call it contract summary. Vicki, I always like to say this is the absolute hardest part of creating an agent is just giving it the right name. From there, it's really quite simple. And from here, after we name our agent, we can give it a little internal description if we would like. The prompt is the instructions that we're giving to our agent. For example, I want you to summarize this contract. I want you to use emojis or bullets, or this is the format I want you to follow. We can also give our agent reference material. So that's where we would add in attachments. Now, I've seen this with customers that have a contract playbook where they have a set of standard terms or fallback positions, and they want the assistant and the agent to actually reference that attachment so that it knows what information to give back to the end user. So that is an option as well. I've also seen my customers use this in order to help it to mimic tone or a certain structure that they want. If you're creating a contract summary and you already have a really great example of one that you've written yourself in the past, just give it to the agent and it's going to do a really great job of mimicking that tone and structure. But we are going to go ahead and just write our own instructions here. So I'm going to say, write a succinct summary of this contract in English. The contract is potentially in another language. First translate it, then give me a summary. And we'll say like less than 2,000 characters, and not 200, 2,000. So we don't want it to be too long. We want it to be a true summary. And from there, I always like to tell it as well. You can use emojis as appropriate. This is, of course, optional, but it can help visually too to really understand it. And then from there, I like to say, structure this summary in a bullet format. Super simple. Now, of course, Vicki, we could add a lot more information in here, but I think for the sake of today, this is probably going to be enough in order to really show the power of these task agents. I'm now going to tell my task agent where I want it to appear. Is this a sourcing task agent? Is it an invoice task agent? And obviously in this case, it should sit on top of our contracts. And it's really truly that simple. Now I will save this agent. I will publish it. And if I hop back into this contract and just give it a quick refresh, you're going to see that my new agent has now appeared. And all I have to do is run my agent and it is going to give me that summary. So here we see, again, the contract is in Japanese. It's giving me that summary in English, giving it to me in the format that I requested, less than 2,000 characters with those emojis in a bulleted format. Of course, we can be more specific, like I want to ensure you pull out the value of the contract, start, end date, any of that. But just in a couple seconds here, Vicki, we built and published a task agent. So it's that simple.
Yes, it is.
Amazing. Alrighty, team. Well, we now have just a few minutes left. So hopefully that gave you a really, quite quick overview of how we can utilize task agents inside of Levelpath to help you to speed up your procurement processes, but also how you yourself would be able to build your own agents in Levelpath. Again, I showed you a very simple example today, but you can get really, really in depth with the instructions that you give our agent and the reference materials that you provide them. And so here as well, I can see we have a question that has come into the chat around the Levelpath user interface. So can it be in languages other than English? Great question. So again, our assistant is able to translate up to 100 or a little over 100 different languages. So that will and you can type to the assistant in those languages as well. As far as the interface goes too, something we're working on right now, you can use browser translation. That's what our customers that are global across the world, whether they're in South Korea or, other parts or in Europe, etc. They are able to just use that translation there to translate any of those more hard-coded buttons, for example, the word contract. So great question. All right, I see another question. What differentiates Levelpath Task Agents from other providers? That is an incredible question. Now, first and foremost, the fact that Levelpath is, as everyone is saying, AI native. And what I mean by that is that if we are finding that OpenAI's model is working really well, we can pull that model in and our agents can utilize that to complete their work. Or if we're seeing that Claude is actually performing best for certain actions, we can pull in Claude, etc. We are not tied to one specific model. The other side too is that you are able to create your own task agents in this easy to use user interface that is no code. Absolutely a differentiator of Levelpath versus only being able to use the out of the box agents that have been given to you. Good question. Another question here, is there a limit on the creation of custom agents? Great question. There is no limit on the creation of your custom agents. As Vicki and team know, you can come in here, create as many as you'd like. I encourage my customers to experiment as much as possible. Yeah, come on in, create as many as you would like, and get them published. Awesome. And I know we are at time here as well. I know we're going to throw up our contact information here too. If you want to reach out to myself or to Vicki, please connect with us. We have our QR codes for our LinkedIn. Feel free to send me questions. Vicki, I'm sure you'd love to connect to some folks as
Of
well.
course.
So please feel free
Absolutely.
to reach out. I know we only had 30 minutes today, but Vicki, thank you so much for joining us, telling us about how Instructure is using Levelpath, and excited to see what you and your team are going to accomplish in the future with AI native procurement.
Thank you, Libby, and thank you everyone for joining.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, everyone.